Beneath the drifting mountain mist, a lone blade walks the earth. His shadow stretches across old roads, quiet as falling dusk. Storms have carved his battered cloak, wars have tempered his steel. He carries no banner, no master's call, only a promise left in dust. Yet, wherever injustice draws its breath, his sword will wake like a... Okay, that's enough of a dramatic intro. And honestly, if you've ever read a Muram manhwa or watched a Wuxia film, you already know the rest. Martial artists wandering through fantastical worlds is one of the most popular genres of storytelling in the East. The flashy combat, the painterly landscapes, the melodramatic yet poetic narratives. It's a genre that's overflowing with style and substance. I mean, there's just something so timeless about warriors on personal journeys, wrapped in the distinct aesthetic of ancient Chinese culture. But despite how popular these fantasy martial arts are in the East, very few games built around it have actually really impacted Western audiences. Sure, we got series like Wolong or Dynasty Warriors, but those focus more on large-scale action than the artistic, atmospheric side of Jianghu tales. Because the genre covers so much ground, many adaptations cut out the quiet, poetic moments to focus on pure spectacle, and the rare games that do embrace those softer beats never made it overseas. In the end, Western players were left with fragments, glimpses of what the martial arts world could really feel like. But that took a turn with the international release of Where Winds Meet. A game that doesn't just borrow from Chinese martial arts stories, it lives and breathes them. Today we're breaking down how Where Winds Meet brings the martial world to life, visually, mechanically, and of course, spiritually. But before all that, like and subscribe. To understand the world of Where Winds Meet, we first need to understand the meaning of the word Jianghu. It's a core concept in martial arts fiction, and it's tricky to translate because it's more of a cultural idea than a single place. At its heart, Jianghu refers to the world of wandering martial artists, a parallel society of swordsmen, heroes, villains, and the legends that exist outside official laws and government. It's not just a location, it's a lifestyle, a whole ecosystem where martial honor comes first. Here, martial sects, assassins, and wanderers live by their own code. Loyalty, reputation, and personal honor matter more than politics. Justice is meted out through duels, brotherhood pacts, and daring adventures. Heroes travel between inns, mountains, ancient towns, and hidden sect compounds in a world where the line between myth and reality is often blurred. In short, Jianghu is a place that invites adventure, challenge, and legendary stories at every single turn. If you really think about it, Jianghu is practically made for an open-world RPG. It's full of characters, factions, and encounters that perfectly fit into this genre. And this is exactly what the world of Where Winds Meet is built on. From its gameplay to its visuals, everything is designed to capture the fantasy of Jianghu. That said, while some design choices enhance the experience, others can pull you out of the immersion. As we break into each element, you'll start to see why the developers made certain decisions and how they shape this world to both function and feel alive. So to start, the most obvious place is the scenery. Sure, the game has solid visual fidelity, but what truly makes Where Winds stand out is its art style. The world itself is exaggerated, poetic, and symbolic. The flowing plains, towering mountain peaks, and the fields of vivid flowers make the world feel like it was arranged by a painter. The UI and menus are inked in black and white to make it look like a canvas of calligraphy. Your journey takes you through misty waterfalls, abandoned temples, and natural landmarks that feel steeped in mystery. The weather shifts are dramatic too. A sudden fog or storm can completely change the mood of an area, again giving the world a living, breathing atmosphere. Everything feels mythic, unrestrained, and has a quality that makes it feel as if it could exist outside of time. Nature itself is never a background. It mirrors cultivation, conflict, and enlightenment. It's a poetic and serene style that was actually established by Sucker Punch in Ghost of Tsushima, and I'm glad Where Winds Meet is embracing something similar because it perfectly suits an Eastern-inspired setting. But imitation without identity can feel hollow, and thankfully the developers of Where Winds Meet have added plenty of their own touches to give the world a personality that's distinctly theirs. Some of the most unique biomes for Where Winds Meet are actually its underground dungeons, and honestly, they're fantastic. These areas can swing from claustrophobic, creepy tunnels full of zombies and deadly traps to massive ancient chambers with strange puzzles and grand architecture that make you feel like a Tomb Raider. I mean, if you've read any manhwa, you've definitely seen arcs where the protagonist ventures into a mysterious tomb in order to uncover secret techniques, a rare medicine, or a forgotten martial art left behind by a legendary master. Where Winds Meet perfectly captures that feeling. Seeing a dungeon icon pop up on your map is exciting because you never really know what you're walking into, and at least visually, it's almost never disappointing. And since this is ancient China, that intricate architecture naturally extends into the overworld. China has always had a deep well of architectural history, and that sense of craft carries over to its fiction too. Where Winds Meet embraces this fully. Mountaintop temples perched above the clouds, colossal statues carved into cliffsides, maze-like city streets, stone pavilions, and weathered roadside inns. the sheer variety of man-made structures is almost as vast as the natural landscape itself, and just as important. These buildings don't just look pretty, they reflect the factions that inhabit them. You'll find darker, more sinister sects hidden underground with eerie red-lit architecture, while graceful Orthodox faction build marble halls integrated with nature, waterfall, and open courtyards. The world feels lived in because the architecture tells you who lives there. And of course, we can't talk about the people who live in this world without mentioning just how fabulous everyone looks. This is one of the biggest things that sets Chinese martial arts stories apart from Korean Muram or Japanese samurai tales. Because while Muram and samurai worlds tend to figure rugged, muscle-bound warriors with scars, grit, and a kind of practical toughness, Jianghu characters often embrace an entirely different ideal. This slender, elegant, almost ethereal martial artist whose beauty is part of their identity. In the Jianghu, attractiveness isn't just vanity, it's part of the myth. Characters move with this poetic grace, their robes flow like water, their hair tied with ornate accessories, and their weapons chosen to perfectly match their temperament. Even the quote-unquote tough characters carry a sense of sharp refinement. That's why, despite having a surprisingly robust character creator, you don't get options to tweak body sliders or give your hero rugged scars. From a gameplay standpoint, sure, it might be limiting, but if the goal is to make your character look like an elegant Jianghu master, you can see why the devs made that choice. Though, let's be honest, that didn't stop the community from creating its own monstrosities anyway. Clothing is another visual defining feature of the Jianghu. The fashion here isn't just stylish, it's storytelling. Embroidered robes, layered silks, wide sleeves, jade ornaments, talismans, masks, and bold sect colors all work together to create an instantly recognizable silhouette. In fact, a single outfit can tell you almost everything about a character's background: the icy blues of the Well of Heaven, the deep crimson of the Midnight Blades, and the serene monochromes of the Inkbound Order. The outfits themselves also contain signature styling like flowing hanfus, the long sleeves that whip around during fights, sashes, belts, cloth strips that move with the wind when the characters travel. These Jianghu outfits are designed to emphasize lightness, speed, and spiritual power, giving characters that signature feeling that they could leap across rooftops or drift through bamboo forests at any moment. I mean, even the hair and makeup carry narrative meaning. Many martial masters wear long flowing hair as a symbol of freedom, mastery, and an untamed spirit. These details make Jianghu masters stand out immediately from ordinary townsfolk. They look like they belong to an entirely different world. And this beauty isn't just surface level. In the Jianghu, aesthetic presence is its own form of power. Think about it, in the middle of a tense duel, someone who moves with elegance can be just as intimidating as someone swinging a massive blade. Wearing a flawless white outfit while defeating 10 enemies without a single stain, that's practically a flex. This visual philosophy is part of what makes the Jianghu so distinct. It's a world where martial arts blur into artistry, where characters aren't just strong, they're mesmerizing. And honestly, that's probably why the developers decided to monetize the game through its outfits. Jianghu fashion is basically its own storytelling device. A single costume can completely reframe a character, turning a novice swordsman into a wandering master, or transforming a cheerful heroine into a mysterious martial artist. Players aren't just buying skins, they're buying alternate fantasies, new versions of who the character can become. And because beauty and elegance are such core pillars of the Jianghu fantasy, collecting outfits ends up being one of the most satisfying parts of this experience. But I think we've gushed enough about the game's aesthetics, so let's shift gears and talk about how Where Winds Meet uses its gameplay and overall feel to deliver a Jianghu experience. The game describes itself as an MMORPG with a pseudo-Souls-like combat system, and honestly, making it an MMO was an inspired move. If you've ever read a Wuxia or Muram story, you'll know exactly why. In these worlds, everyone is practicing martial arts. It's not just the main heroes, it's the random side characters, the nameless mobs, the little kids on the street, the innkeepers who've clearly seen a thing or two. In the Jianghu, martial arts aren't some rare mysterious power, they're the cultural baseline. Everyone practices something, and honestly, an MMO is one of the few game formats that actually recreate that feeling. Every player you meet is another martial artist on their own path. Just like in classic wuxia stories, the world feels populated with wandering swordsmen, rogue cultivators, healers, assassins, and the occasional tricksters trying to scam you out of your lunch money. The MMO structure turns the world into a living Jianghu. I mean, turn on co-op mode and suddenly you're surrounded by players chatting by the matchmaker, people gathering around the doctor's area healing each other, squads forming to raid a boss, or a group of players diving into some good old PvP. And through all of this, the game nails a key idea. You're not the chosen one, you're one of 1,000 carving out your own martial path, which is exactly what the Jianghu should feel like. The MMO design also nails the social side of Jianghu culture. Wuxia stories are built on relationships, reputations, and those unexpected encounters with strangers who end up becoming sworn friends or bitter enemies. Multiplayer systems can perfectly capture this. Guilds can naturally feel like sects, complete with hierarchies and shared goals. A player with a bad reputation quickly becomes known, just like troublemakers in the Jianghu who have bounties on their heads. PvP fights can recreate those classic honor duels, while open world teamwork feels like temporarily joining forces with wandering martial artists for a shared purpose. In a way, the MMO format brings to life the idea that everyone's story crosses paths with everyone else's. Then, there's the combat system in Where Winds Meet. Each weapon comes with a fixed normal attack, a heavy attack, and 2 weapon-specific martial arts skills. You can carry 2 weapons at once and swap between them freely. On top of that, you can equip a further 8 mystic skills, which are cool techniques you can learn through encounters, side quests, and exploration. In theory, that means you can access 12 unique skills at any given time, along with your basic combos. And like most of the game's design choices, this setup clearly aims to deliver that core martial arts fantasy. I mean, one of the best parts of Jianghu battles is watching characters unleash their unique martial arts, mixing weapon styles and secret techniques. This system is meant to do exactly that, to chain together multiple skills and weapons and build your own distinctive fighting style. At least that was the idea on paper. In practice, the system still has a few limitations holding it back for now. For one, about half of your mystic skill slots end up being taken by essential utility skills, since they're required for open world exploration. That alone limits your freedom, and even among the remaining slots, only a handful of combat-focused mystic skills actually feel smooth enough to weave into your combos. The game currently only has 5 truly distinct weapon types. The rest are essentially variants of existing weapons with slightly different movesets. These aren't Devil May Cry or Bayonetta weapons, they're simple Souls-type weapons with telegraph combos. They're limited by stamina, and most of your special moves are under cooldown or resource. Sure, a lot of people enjoy Souls-like combat, but for a Jianghu fantasy, I actually would have preferred something akin to Devil May Cry. I mean, it has the freedom and flexibility to let people play around with combos, making it perfect for Jianghu martial arts. On top of all that, I'm not really a fan of how you acquire skills in this game. Earlier I mentioned you can get mystic skills from side quests and activities, which is fine, but you can also unlock combat abilities by observing other martial artists or even animals to copy their techniques. I mean, it sounds pretty cool, right? Because that's exactly how martial prodigies in Jianghu stories replicate techniques. However, the actual gameplay execution feels pretty hollow. You don't train, you don't practice, you don't master anything. You just walk in a circle, press a few QTE buttons, and boom, the skill is yours. It's quick, it's easy, and it's completely unfulfilling. What should feel like a breakthrough martial arts moment ends up feeling like checking off a box. I mean, this could have been the perfect chance to gamify the journey of learning martial arts. Imagine if every weapon had a full skill tree. The more you use that weapon, the more techniques you unlocked for it. Maybe you discover a move that actually clicks really well with your playstyle, and then you'd face a real choice. Keep mastering and fully dedicate yourself to this one weapon, or you can start mastering another weapon and gain techniques to mix in with the ones you've already learned. That kind of structure would make each weapon feel deeper and more personal to the player, and it would also push them to think which skills they truly want to master. And even layering on that, many iconic Jianghu archetypes are simply just not here. Archery specialists, poison masters, trap users, either they don't exist or they simply aren't viable in this build of the game. Honestly, this lack of combat freedom is a bit disappointing, especially in a setting where diverse martial philosophies are supposed to shine. However, I never thought I'd be saying this, but the good news is, Where Winds Meet is a live service game, so there's room for growth and future updates that could bring that much needed build variety. But as of now, it's hard to praise the system where 90% of players are running around with the same umbrella build. A simulation to this also pops up in the faction system. Typically with just a few basic prerequisites, you can join or leave any faction you want without any real consequences. And in the Jianghu, that kind of behavior would get you killed. Rival sects, fragile alliances, and deep-rooted grudges are some of the most important fantasy elements in any Jianghu story, so it's surprising that Where Winds Meet treats them so casually. In many other RPGs, factions come with reputation systems that meaningfully affect how the world responds to you. If you take a job for a demonic sect, orthodox factions would judge you or attack you on sight. If you stole a clan's signature martial art, their disciples would start hunting you down. If you betray your own sect, rival groups might try to recruit you, not out of kindness but because they want your secrets. I mean, there are countless gameplay and narrative opportunities in a world built on complex faction politics, but Where Winds Meet doesn't explore any of them. Instead, joining a sect mostly boils down to cosmetic rewards, which feels like a huge missed opportunity in a setting that thrives on choices, consequences, and the reputations they forge. Of course, the game will still function and even pull a dedicated player base without these deeper systems. I mean, plenty of MMOs get by on visuals, vibes, and social interaction alone. But if you're going to label your game as an RPG, then you need to respect what the genre actually stands for. RPGs are fundamentally built on player choice. Not just the illusion of choice, but meaningful decisions that shape the player's combat style, growth path, and even their relationships with the world around them. And if those choices are limited entirely to cosmetics and not gameplay or world interaction, then it stops being an RPG in the long-term sense. It becomes more of a dress-up action game with RPG flavoring sprinkled on top. That's fine for short-term engagement, but it won't sustain itself because there's no personal investment in your character's martial journey. The Jianghu setting of all things practically begs for player-driven progression, because the whole idea of cultivation and martial training revolves around choosing your own path. If that doesn't exist, then the game is missing a big part of what makes the Jianghu fantasy so compelling. But for everything the game lacks in player choice, it makes up for in something that genuinely elevates Where Winds Meet into a true Jianghu fantasy. And that's the open world. This game has a remarkable way of making every meeting feel unexpected and alive. In Jianghu stories, the world thrives on unpredictable strangers, mysterious wanderers, eccentric masters, disguised villains, desperate villagers, traveling performers, rogue disciples, or the unassuming passerby who turns out to be a hidden expert. Where Winds Meet captures that spirit perfectly. You might decide to help an old man, only to find yourself wandering into the land of the dead. You may meet someone who seems to need simple help, only to discover they're entangled in a far bigger martial conspiracy. You could be exploring peacefully, then suddenly get challenged by a puppet master who controls their fighters through theater. Most of these encounters spiral into multi-step questlines that feel like classic Wuxia turning points. Those sudden dramatic detours where a hero's path shifts because they overheard the wrong conversation, save the right traveler, or stumble into a decades-old feud. It's a quality you can find in the best type of open world games, ones that inspire you to explore. You can be heading towards a main quest marker and suddenly a frantic family begs you to rescue their kidnapped son, only for you to be kidnapped and thrown into a scam yourself. An old Daoist riding a donkey can challenge you to a spontaneous duel. A squad of guards tries to arrest you without any cause. An NPC invites you to meditate and it ends with you descending into an ancient tomb of secrets. It's these interactions that embody the heart of the Jianghu, a world shaped by fate, chance, and chaotic currents rather than simple linear quest design. It's a world that calls for adventure. Where RPG and combat systems may stumble, the encounter design steps out as a standout feature. It makes the world feel so full and alive, so diverse, so tactile. The constant sense of serendipity, danger, and opportunity around every corner is what truly sells the fantasy of wandering the Jianghu. And in the end, this is what makes Where Winds Meet so genuinely special to play. Because every step you take feels like the start of another martial legend waiting to unfold. And if that's not a legend worth making for yourself, I don't know what is. And those are my thoughts on how I think Where Winds Meet brings Chinese martial arts to life. Now, I'd like to hear from you. What do you like about Where Winds Meet? Tell me down in the comment section below. Of course, like and subscribe to support little old me, and if you're new around here, hi, I'm the starward Crusader, and I like talking about character design, or just visual design in general. So be sure to hit that big red subscribe button if you want to see more from me in the future. So now for more general unscripted thoughts on Where Winds Meet, because this video is mostly about how it captures the Chinese martial arts. My personal thoughts on the game itself is that it's still in a place where I'm not too dedicated to it. There's certain things that I'm not a big fan of, like for example the story. I didn't mention in the video because it doesn't really have to do anything with the fantasy, but it's not very compelling. Like there's no real characters that I've latched onto, and the plot is very typical of a Mura manhwa. I've seen a lot of this before. Sure, they gave us this revenge story, but I feel like they just made Ruby as a character just to kill her off, and it just felt extremely forced and contrived. And yeah, the characters themselves don't stick around long enough. Right now I'm on the second region, and the more class-divided story is piquing my interest, but the story is the number one reason why I stick around for any game. So this game is weird in the fact that I enjoy the side encounters so much that I'm here despite the story. I don't know how long I can keep this up, because at the end of the day, story is my number one thing. So if it doesn't improve fast or find an interesting angle, I probably will drop Where Winds Meet sooner or later. Adding to that, I did mention combat earlier, but there's also something about combat that really doesn't make me want to play this game anymore, and that is the online. If you don't have a good connection, you're gonna struggle with this game's combat. Yeah, if you don't have a good connection, or if you live really far away from the servers, this game feels super sluggish to play through, which is only amplified by the fact that it's a Souls-like system that rewards dodging and parrying. So having a terrible connection means the game feels like ass to play. And yeah, also the monetization is it's super rough. Yeah. The $50,000 Boto, I was like, whoa, okay. But I guess the community is fine with it because almost all the gameplay elements of the game are actually pretty solid. So I guess they can get away with having ridiculous monetization. But for what this is, a free-to-play game, it is ridiculous how AAA it looks. I mean, if this is how free-to-play games are going to look in the next couple of years, there's almost no reason to buy AAA anymore. It's stunning. It's way too good for its pedigree. It's like the first time Genshin came out. It basically just redefined what an anime game is, you know? And then Star Rail followed and Wuthering Waves came. And now we have a whole cool generation of games coming out like Silver Palace and Ananta and all these cool ideas of anime games taken to the next level. But yes, that's my 2 cents on the game. Currently still working on the Wuthering Waves story recap, and I am looking at the new designs and thinking, damn, I really need to make a video on that. But right now, I'm still processing Amphorius. That's whoo boy. It's been weeks and I am still thinking about that story, but I think maybe I'll make a more dedicated video on that. I think I should sign off here before it gets too long in the tooth. So, with all that said, my dear trailblazers, may your journey lead you ever starward.